11 years. 11 years dedicated to Thomson Enterprises building the customer service department practically from scratch. And it all ended in less than 5 minutes in a cold meeting on a Friday. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to get access to more stories like this. Jessica, we need to restructure some departments, and unfortunately, your position is being eliminated, said Tyler, adjusting his Hermes tie while avoiding my gaze. Today will be your last day. I stayed silent for a few seconds, trying to process what was happening. Tyler Thomson, the founder's son, had taken over as CEO only 3 weeks ago, when his father decided to step away temporarily due to health issues. Can I ask the specific reason? My department has exceeded all targets in the last 8 quarters, I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the shock. We're following a new strategic direction. HR has already prepared your severance package. We need you to clear your desk by the end of the day. There was no real explanation or discussion. His assistant was already waiting at the door with a box for my things. In less than an hour, I was in the parking lot with 11 years of my professional life reduced to a cardboard box. I didn't even get a proper chance to say goodbye to my team. Over the weekend, I alternated between fits of tears and frustrated attempts to understand what had happened. On Monday, when I started updating my resume, I received a message from Megan, my former co-worker. The office is a mess. Tyler has no idea what he's done. Kingswell is threatening to cancel the contract because you were fired. Kingswell Industries, our biggest client, responsible for almost 30% of the company's annual revenue. The contract that I myself negotiated 3 years ago had a specific clause. I was the only representative authorized to handle renegotiations. A clause that Mr. Wilson, the CEO of Kingswell, insisted on because he trusted me personally after I resolved a huge crisis for them in the past. Apparently, Tyler didn't read the contract, Megan continued. He scheduled a meeting with the Kingswell team for tomorrow and they refused. They said they'd only talk to you or cancel everything. For a moment, I felt a bitter satisfaction. Tyler, always so arrogant ever since he started showing up in the executive meetings, was now facing the consequences of his impulsive decision. A part of me wanted to let him sink on his own. But there were good people at Thomson who depended on that contract for their jobs. On Wednesday, my phone rang. Unknown number. Jessica. This is Robert Thomson. The founder's voice caught me by surprise. Unlike the controlled and confident tone I was used to, he sounded tired and worried. Mr. Thomson, how's your health? I asked sincerely. Better than the company's finances if we lose Kingswell, he sighed. I just found out about your termination. Tyler didn't consult me. He made a grave mistake. I'm sorry to hear that, sir. Jessica, I need you to come back. Kingswell is threatening to cancel a $3 million contract. They will only negotiate with you. Mr. Thomson, I appreciate you reaching out, but I was escorted out of the building on Friday like a criminal. I know it was horrible and inexcusable. I'm offering your job back, with a 15% raise and a written guarantee that you'll report directly to me, not Tyler. I considered his words. Despite the humiliation, I loved my work and my team. And honestly, the job market was tough. I need to review the formal offer in writing, I replied. And I want to talk in person before I return. 2 days later, I went back to Thomson Enterprises with a new signed contract. The looks in the office ranged from surprise to relief. Tyler was in his office, visibly irritated as I passed by. The next morning, I led the meeting with Kingswell. Mr. Wilson didn't hide his preference for working with me. Jessica, we trust you to implement the integrated system. Without you, we'd have to reconsider the entire partnership. I worked tirelessly for 2 weeks, finalizing every detail. When we finally signed the renewed and expanded contract, I received applause from the team. Tyler didn't attend the celebration. The relief was short-lived. I began noticing small acts of sabotage, emails that disappeared, altered documents, forgotten deadlines. On one occasion, I found a modified version of a presentation I had prepared for a client, with incorrect data that would make me appear incompetent. The sabotage became more evident each day. After the incident with the tampered presentation, I started documenting everything meticulously. I saved copies of every email, took screenshots of screens, and kept duplicate versions of all the important files on my personal device. I realized I needed to create a defense system if I wanted to survive in this hostile environment. Did you notice that Tyler always shows up at your team meetings uninvited? Megan asked during our lunch. And how he questions every decision you make in front of everyone. Of course I noticed, I replied while nibbling on my salad without much appetite. Yesterday, he changed the Carter project schedule without consulting me, delaying everything by 2 weeks. People are talking. Some think he's trying to prove that bringing you back was a mistake. I knew exactly what Tyler was doing. Instead of firing me again and facing his father's wrath, he was trying to force me to give up. Or worse, make me commit such a serious mistake that would justify my dismissal for cause. On one particularly tense morning, I caught Tyler fiddling with my computer before work. "Can I help with something?" I asked from the doorway, watching as he quickly closed some windows. "Just checking the numbers on the quarterly report," he replied without hesitation. "We need to send it to the committee today." Interesting, considering the report was already finalized and sent last night, as per the email I forwarded to you. Tyler stood up, adjusting his impeccable suit. "Just being diligent, Jessica. After all, you've been away for a while. There might be necessary adjustments to your processes." As soon as he left, I checked my system. As I suspected, several files had been modified. Luckily, I had backups of everything. That night, I installed software that recorded every change made to my documents, with the date, time, and user. It wasn't paranoia, it was survival. The following week, I received an alarming email from Kingswell questioning why we had raised the maintenance service prices by 20%, contradicting our agreement. Confused, I checked the proposal that was sent. Someone had changed the numbers after I signed off on the final version. "Mr. Wilson, there's been a mistake," I explained over the phone. "The proposal was altered without my authorization. I'm sending the correct version now with my certified digital signature. Jessica, if it weren't for our long relationship, we'd be reconsidering this partnership," he replied, visibly irritated. "This isn't the first irregularity in recent weeks." "What do you mean?" "We've been receiving contradictory emails from Thomson. Some requesting significant changes to the scope, others ignoring scheduled commitments. All supposedly coming from your department." My stomach sank. Someone was deliberately sabotaging my relationship with our most important client. And I had a good idea who it was. That night, I worked late, compiling all the evidence, tampered emails, modified documents, access logs from my computer at times when I wasn't at the office. I created a detailed dossier, including testimonials from team members who had witnessed questionable behavior. The next morning, I made a difficult but necessary decision. I requested a meeting with Robert Thomson. Although he was away for medical treatment, he still kept a watchful eye on the company he built. "Jessica, I admit I'm worried," he said when we met at his home. "The financial reports show instability with key client relationships." "This is exactly what I need to talk about, sir," I replied, handing him an organized folder. I believe there is a systematic campaign to undermine my work, and by extension, the relationships I've built with our major clients. Robert examined the documents slowly, his wrinkled face growing more concerned as he turned the pages. "This is disturbing," he finally murmured. "Some of these alterations could expose us to lawsuits for breach of contract. I've been working twice as hard to identify and fix each issue before it caused irreversible damage. But I'm fighting against forces within the company itself." He removed his glasses, rubbing his tired eyes. "Are you directly accusing my son?" "I'm presenting evidence, Mr. Thompson. The conclusions are yours." After a long silence, he nodded gravely. "I'm going to order an immediate internal audit. A complete and independent one. If what you've compiled here is confirmed." He paused, visibly disturbed by the possibility. "Well, we'll deal with it appropriately." 3 days later, Kevin from the Internal Audit Department started a thorough investigation. Tyler tried to block the process, claiming it was a waste of resources, but Robert was unwavering. Kevin and his team examined every system, every record, every communication. They interviewed employees, reviewed access logs, and even recovered deleted files. The process was exhaustive, lasting a full 2 weeks. During that period, the tension in the office was palpable. Tyler rarely appeared, and when he did, he avoided my gaze. I continued doing my work with the utmost professionalism, rebuilding client relationships and fixing the problems that had been created. Finally, the day came for the audit results meeting. Robert Thompson returned to the office especially for the occasion. The main conference room was set up with a long oval table where senior executives, the audit team, the legal department, Tyler, and I were seated. Kevin started the presentation in a sober tone. Our investigation identified significant patterns of corporate document manipulation, forgery of communications with clients, and attempts to compromise the integrity of our internal systems, he explained, projecting detailed graphs and tables. "And the sources?" asked Robert, although his tone indicated he already suspected the answer. "We traced 94% of the suspicious activities to a single user," Kevin replied, hesitating briefly before continuing. "The administrative login associated with Tyler Thompson." The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler turned red, alternating between pallor and flush as he looked at his father. "This is ridiculous," he finally protested. "Obviously, someone hacked my account, or is tampering with these records. It was probably you, Jessica." Kevin shook his head slowly. "We considered that possibility, Mr. Thompson. However, our systems log not only the login used, but also the IP address, device, and even typing patterns. The activities were carried out consistently from your personal computer and devices, often at times when only you were in the building, as recorded by the security cameras." Robert Thompson remained impassive as the presentation continued. With each new piece of evidence, I could see the weight of disappointment building on his shoulders. "Furthermore," Kevin continued, "we recovered deleted emails from Mr. Tyler Thompson's account that clearly show an intent to, well, there's no other way to put it, sabotage Ms. Jessica's work following your return to the company." Tyler abruptly stood up, knocking over his chair. "This is a conspiracy. An attempt to discredit me. Jessica turned everyone against me, because she's bitter that I tried to modernize this outdated company." Finally, Robert spoke, his voice soft but firm. "Tyler, sit down." "Father, you can't believe." "Sit down," Robert repeated, this time with undeniable authority. Tyler complied, though his body language showed contained fury. "Kevin, has the legal team reviewed these findings?" Robert asked. "Yes, sir. We prepared a complete report on the legal implications, including potential breaches of contracts with clients and internal company policies." Robert nodded slowly before turning to me. Jessica, do you have anything to add? I maintained my professional composure despite the emotional storm inside me. Just that everything I did was to protect the relationships we built with our clients and the reputation of this company. I documented these issues not for revenge, but because I believe in the values you established when you founded Thomson Enterprises. Robert looked at his son for a long moment, then at me, and finally at the room full of executives. Tyler Thomson is officially suspended from all executive duties, effective immediately, he announced, ignoring the audible groan from his son. The board of directors will receive the complete audit report and decide the next steps. Until then, I will temporarily resume as CEO. Turning to me, he added, Jessica, I'd like you to stay after this meeting. We have a lot to discuss about the future. Tyler stood up again, this time with clenched fists. You can't do this. I'm your son. Your heir. Exactly, because you're my son. I expected more from you, Robert replied calmly. Integrity is non-negotiable in this company, not even for a Thomson. The room gradually emptied, leaving only Robert, a few members of the legal department, and me. Tyler was the last to leave, throwing me a look that mixed hatred with disbelief. After the audit meeting, the days that followed were a mix of relief and unease. The office buzzed with whispered conversations every time I passed by. Some colleagues avoided me, as if I were responsible for Tyler's downfall. Others finally approached me to share their own experiences of intimidation under his brief leadership. Robert Thomson conducted an even more extensive audit in the following weeks. Kevin and his team examined every decision Tyler made during his short time as CEO. The results were even more alarming than expected. Jessica, can you come to my office? Robert called me exactly 1 month after Tyler's suspension. I entered his office, a simpler and more functional space than the corporate showroom Tyler had created for himself. Robert was sitting behind his dark wooden desk, which had belonged to his own father when he started the company. Please, sit down, he said, removing his reading glasses. The full audit is complete. I nodded, waiting for him to continue. In addition to the sabotage targeted at you, we discovered several financial irregularities. Tyler diverted corporate funds for personal projects, falsified expense reports, and more seriously, attempted to alter contractual information of other clients besides Kingswell. I'm sorry, Mr. Thomson, I replied sincerely. Despite everything I went through, I never wished to hurt this man, who had always treated me with respect. Don't apologize. You acted with integrity from start to finish, he sighed deeply, seeming to age 10 years in that moment. The board met yesterday. The decision was unanimous. Tyler has been officially let go from the company. I remained silent, absorbing the information. What happened would be seen as justice by many, but I felt no joy in the outcome. He is my son, and he always will be, Robert continued, his voice slightly choked. But this company represents the livelihood of hundreds of families. I cannot allow his behavior to put it at risk. I completely understand, sir. What happens now? Robert shifted in his chair, regaining some of that leadership posture he had always shown. This is what I want to discuss. I've spent the last few days reviewing your journey here, Jessica. 11 years building solid relationships with clients, developing efficient processes, leading teams with excellence. And the most impressive part, how you handled this recent crisis. He pushed a folder in my direction. The board and I would like to offer you a new position. Director of Client Strategy, reporting directly to me. It's an executive leadership role we created specifically considering your skills. I opened the folder, examining the details of the proposal. The salary increase was substantial, as were the responsibilities. This is a tremendous honor, Mr. Thomson. It's an incredible opportunity. You deserve it. But I want to be upfront, it won't be easy. We have relationships to rebuild and a corporate culture to reshape. Tyler's behavior left scars that we'll have to heal together. I reflected on the past few months, the unjust firing, the return, the sabotage, the investigation. It had been an emotional roller coaster, but also a powerful lesson. I accept the challenge, I replied firmly. Actually, I already have some ideas on how we can strengthen our corporate governance to prevent similar situations in the future. Robert smiled for the first time in weeks. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. 2 weeks later, I officially assumed my new position. My first action was to gather the executive team for a strategic planning session. Our top priority should be restoring trust, both internally among employees and externally with our partners and clients, I explained as I presented my vision. I propose implementing a system of radical transparency in client communications, where all contractual changes need to go through double verification. The executives, many of whom previously only saw me as the customer relations manager, now listened intently. Also, I suggest we create an anonymous communication channel where any employee can report unethical behavior without fear of retaliation, I continued. What happened to me could have been avoided if there had been an adequate protection system in place. Over the following months, I worked tirelessly to implement these changes. I visited each important client personally, including Kingswell, to rebuild relationships and demonstrate our renewed commitment to integrity. You know, Jessica, Mr. Wilson commented during one of these meetings, I always knew you were exceptional. But the way you handled everything is truly remarkable. I just did what I thought was right, even when it seemed impossible. That's exactly why I insisted on that contractual clause, making you our sole representative, he said with a smile. People with integrity are rare in the corporate world. Inside the company, the cultural shift was gradual but constant. I implemented regular feedback sessions and created mentoring programs to identify promising talent at all levels. The anonymous whistleblower channel I proposed became a model of corporate governance, later adopted by other companies in the industry. 6 months after my promotion, I organized a leadership development workshop for all managers. During my opening presentation, I shared something personal. Many of you witnessed what happened to me last year. It was an extremely challenging time, but also transformative. I learned that our true strength isn't in the positions we hold, but in the integrity with which we conduct ourselves, especially in tough times. I looked at attentive faces in the audience, including several employees who had once been afraid to speak up under Tyler's leadership. Today, I want us to think together about creating an environment where merit is recognized, where diverse voices are heard, and where ethics are never compromised by convenience or office politics. A young analyst timidly raised her hand. How did you manage to keep your composure throughout that time? Many of us would have given up. I paused for a moment before answering. I believe we all have defining moments in our careers, situations that test not only our professional skills, but our character. When I was unjustly fired and then sabotaged, I realized I had 2 choices: succumb to injustice, or turn it into an opportunity for positive change. The words came naturally, crystallizing lessons I was still processing. I chose to meticulously document every incident not just to protect myself, but because I believed that the truth would eventually prevail. And more importantly, I decided that if I ever had the power to change the system, I'd use that experience as a guide to create something better. The workshop extended over 2 productive days, generating dozens of initiatives to strengthen our organizational culture. Robert Thompson participated in the closing session, clearly proud of how I led the proceedings. Jessica turned an experience that could have destroyed her career into a catalyst for corporate evolution, he remarked to the group. That's what we call true leadership. At the end of that year, our financial indicators showed significant recovery. Employee turnover had decreased by 40%, and we secured 3 new major clients, who specifically cited our ethical reputation as a decisive factor. Robert called me into a private meeting on the eve of the year-end break. "You exceeded every expectation," he said, serving us coffee. "The company is stronger than ever." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. It's been a challenging, but rewarding journey." He gazed out the window for a moment before continuing. "I've been thinking about the future. My health is stable now, but the doctors recommend that I reduce my responsibilities." I nodded, suspecting where the conversation was headed. "The board and I would like you to take on more executive responsibilities next year. Eventually, preparing you for a possible succession as CEO." The proposal caught me off guard, despite all the signs. "It's an immense honor, but what about Tyler? He's your son, after all." Robert sighed deeply. "Tyler is going through his own learning process. Maybe one day he'll understand that leading isn't just a birthright, but a responsibility, and through consistent, ethical actions." He smiled gently. "In the meantime, this company needs someone who embodies its core values. Someone like you." On my drive home that night under the gentle snow of early winter, I reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past 12 months. From the humiliation of an unjust firing to the prospect of leading the entire company. The path hadn't been linear or easy, but every obstacle made me stronger. Thomson Enterprises had changed forever. And so had I. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like to get access to more stories like this.